I'm living the dream. It's amazing. It's definitely everything I thought it would be and a lot more.
Kristen Faulkner on the front, really driving the peloton.
It's a totally different world than what I grew up in.
Kristen Faulkner's journey to elite-level cycling with Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank is one of many in the female peloton that has followed a somewhat unique path.
So I grew up in Homer, Alaska. I was the fourth of 5 kids, so I did a lot of things outdoors. It was a really small fishing village. So the sports were a big part of how we spent our time growing up. And I was always a competitive athlete. And so I was state champion swimmer when I was 10 years old, and then I picked up rowing later in high school. I was recruited for rowing to Harvard and continued to row on the varsity team there. And then I have always been really interested in startups, so I moved to New York to work for a venture capital firm after college. And it was in New York where I realized this was the first time in my life where I wasn't part of a competitive sports team. My friend recommended that I try out biking, and there was an introductory women's clinic in Central Park. Everything from there was basically having to learn, and that was when I was 24. I would review every single former race that was on YouTube, and I would analyze what was every rider doing during the race, and were they blocked by the wind, and when did they attack, and why did they attack at that specific moment, and what is their race history? Are they sprinters? Are they climbers? So I studied a lot off the bike, and I think my Harvard education helped me to do that in a more efficient way, and that translated to the bike, and I think that's why I've had a really quick learning curve on the bike.
By autumn of last year, just 3 years after starting riding, Faulkner's attitude and ability earned her an invitation to ride with Team Tibco Silicon Valley Bank in Europe.
When I went to Europe and saw that everyone had been racing since they were 7 or 10 years old, to me that was weird, because I was like, oh, this has been like a lifelong sport for a lot of these people. I basically skipped the whole criterium circuit in the US, which is where a lot of racers gain those tactical kind of bike handling skills. And then I never raced in a big peloton. So my first race was Ardèche in France in September of 2020. And then from then went right into the classics. And so Ardèche was definitely a steep learning curve. I knew when I went to Europe that this was kind of my one shot to prove that I belonged there.
And prove it she did, winning stage 4 ahead of the likes of Mavi Garcia to claim her first ever pro win. Not that she had time to celebrate.
I thought that I could be a venture capitalist and a pro cyclist at the same time. I'd wake up at 6 a.m., respond to emails, drive to the stage, come home from the stage at 6 or 7, do 5 hours of Zoom calls, make dinner, eat like a baguette and a protein shake for dinner, go to bed at midnight, wake up at 6 and do it all over again. And this was my first ever stage race in Europe, and I was like falling over, trying to stay in the peloton, and I was exhausted, and everything was so overwhelming. There was actually one day when my brother was like, I was like, I don't know when to leave. I don't know when. I'm going to try and do both as long as I can. And he was like, is this a goal of yours or is this a dream of yours? And I was like, it's a dream. Like, I really want to go to the Olympics one day. And he was like, it's a dream. Like, why are you asking me the question? Like, why don't you just leave now? That was a pretty defining moment for me. And that was in the fall of 2020. Then when I left my job January 31st, I knew that I was actually leaving for the Spring Classics 12 days later. So I had about 10 days of being a pro cyclist.
Top 10s in the Tour of Flanders and Gent-Wevelgem showed that Faulkner made the right decision.
I knew I loved cycling when I was working full time, and now that I can actually devote myself to it, it's even better than it was before. So I feel like I'm exploring a part of the world that I'd never seen before, and I'm doing it on bike, and it's beautiful and amazing and worldly and educational. Also, being able to invest a lot more in my team and my teammates has made me a much better teammate than I was last year, because this year I've noticed a huge change in the way I interact with my teammates, just because I have time to devote to those relationships, and that has also made a huge difference. I have things to work on, but it's been fun kind of jumping in to the deep end.